Does every day in your business start to feel the same? You've been doing this for a while, so I'm sure you've got a nice routine. You wake up, check your sales, answer a few emails, maybe place a new PO and review your PPC campaigns. You are putting in the hours, right? But then weeks and months go by and you realize you've put in hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours, but somehow your business has stayed the same. If that's the case, you have a problem. But there is a way to break this cycle, and I call it the one-touch rule. Let me tell you something. If you are around 7 figures and still running things mostly on your own, you are likely spending 70% of your time just maintaining the business. And that's not just a guess. It's what I've seen after working with over 100 sellers. Plus, of course, I experience it myself in our business. Some spend a little less, some even more, but for most, the majority of their time goes into maintenance of their business. On average, this adds up to more than 20 hours every single week. Just think about your actual workday. You check your sales reports, then you notice a listing issue and fix it. Slack messages start coming in, so you reply to your team, suppliers, and forwarders. You approve POs, book shipments, and pay invoices. Then you track and forecast your inventory to make sure nothing runs out. Review your PPC performance, tweak some bits, and before you know it, you're handling customer complaints. Now, all of this keeps the business running, but none of it grows it. This cycle never ends unless you change the way you operate. Getting into a comfortable routine is fine if you have a job. It means you are doing what's expected. But if every day looks the same in your business, it means that you are stagnating. Of course, all of these tasks like checking sales, answering messages, and booking shipments have to get done. But ask yourself, when was the last time you actually tried something new? I'm not talking about small tweaks or optimizations, I mean real business growth moves. This is one of the first things I always ask when I talk to a new seller. So let's do a little experiment together. It will force you to see what's actually happening. When was the last time you actually sat down to brainstorm new product ideas? How many product ideas did you generate last month? How many new products have you launched in the past 3 months? When was the last time you researched new opportunities for your brand like new marketplace or new sales channel? When did you last revisit your customer avatar and your branding strategy? If you are like most sellers, you are probably not too happy about the answers. And this is exactly why so many sellers hit a wall at around 7 figures. It's not a lack of opportunity, it's lack of time and mental clarity. I rarely ever see a seller that just wouldn't know how to grow their business. It's quite the opposite. They have too many ideas to do it all. So before we can even think about scaling, we need to get our time back first, so we can actually allocate it to things that matter. And that's where the one-touch rule comes in. It's about having the mental space to focus on growth. Instead of being buried in low-level tasks, you are constantly thinking about new product ideas, new marketplaces, new sales channels, and better marketing. That's the shift we need to make, so let's get into it. So what is the one-touch rule? At its core, it means handling tasks and decisions once, in a way that ensures you never have to deal with them again. Now, before you say it's impossible, hear me out. First of all, it should make you a little uncomfortable. That's the point. Because the truth is, most sellers don't think like business owners, they think like workers. And the one-touch rule forces you to think like a CEO, removing yourself from low-value tasks instead of getting trapped in them. And once you start using it, you'll realize just how much time you've been wasting. We've been talking a lot about low-value and high-value tasks. You might also know this as low-level and high-level work. But really, it's simple. Everything you do in your business falls somewhere on this spectrum. Some tasks add a lot of value to your business, while others not so much. For example, a low-value task would be something like generating labels for your shipments. Needs to be done, but it doesn't move the needle. On the other hand, high-value tasks would be like launching a new product, something that actually moves your business forward. And here's the thing. Most of the maintenance tasks you spend your day on fall on the left side of this spectrum. And that's exactly what the one-touch rule is designed to fix. We are going to put the one-touch rule into action using a simple decision tree. A step-by-step process that will always tell you exactly what to do next. Every time a task lands on your plate, you'll follow this decision tree. The first question in the one-touch rule decision tree is simple. Does this really need to be done? In other words, is this task actually valuable or is it just busy work? You might realize that some of the things you do every day have zero real impact on your business. Like checking your sales 14 times a day, probably not necessary. So ask yourself, what happens if I stop doing this? If the answer is nothing, then it's just a waste of time. Simply eliminate it and move on. But of course, most tasks do need to get done, so let's move on to the step 2. Should I be the one doing this? And be honest with yourself here. A lot of sellers fall into the trap of thinking, only I can do this the right way. But if you ask yourself, is this really the highest value use of your time? Could someone else handle it just as well as you? If you are truly convinced that you need to be the one doing it, keep doing it, for now. Because the reality is there are only a few tasks that truly require you. And that leads us to step number 3. Can this be automated? In other words, is there a tool or system that removes the need for manual input? And you might be surprised, because with the help of AI and automation tools, we can now automate more tasks than ever before. And if automation is an option, invest the time now to set it up and save time in the future. If it cannot be automated and it does require manual input, we continue to the next question. Do I have someone on my team who can take this over? If not, then who should I hire? If there is no one on your team with the right skill set, that's a sign that hiring should be a priority, so you can get this off your plate. But if you already have the right person or you've recently hired someone, then we move on to the final step. If I had to delegate this tomorrow, do I have the necessary instructions? In other words, what SOPs, templates, or training would make this foolproof? If you don't have the necessary materials in place, then your next priority is to document the process so you can delegate it as soon as possible. If you already have it, the next step is simple. Start training and hand it over. As you can see, the decision tree helps us figure out the next best action so we don't have to deal with the same task ever again. The whole idea behind the one-touch rule is to push us, to constantly think about ways to remove ourselves from the business and free up our time for high-value work. Now, let's be realistic. You won't be able to apply this to everything overnight. You'll start small. But the key is to always keep this rule in mind whenever you are working in your business. If you want to transform your business, implement proven systems, and build the right team, you can apply to work with me one-on-one by clicking the link in the description. Our next video covers the 6 essential things you need to know before you hire your first employee. The truth is that most people mess up their first hire. Before I hired my first employee, I thought it would be simple. Just find someone, give them tasks, and free up my time. But that's not how it works. So go ahead and watch it now. I'll see you next week. Bye.